Hey, welcome. This is our last devotional that we're doing for Lent. And it's a tough one because the title of it's not really catchy. We've called this Solidarity in Jesus' Suffering. And the reality is that everybody suffers. Everybody is going to go through hurt, through pain, through disappointment, through grief. That is the universal human experience. But the question is, how do we do it? How do we do it well as Christians? And there are some things that we can do. There's a passage that the Apostle Paul writes about, which is in Philippians chapter 3, verses 10 and 11. And he says this amazing thing. He says, I want to know Christ. Yes, the power of his resurrection. And so we love that, the life of Christ, to know Jesus. But then he goes on and he says, and participation in his sufferings, becoming like him in his death, and so somehow attaining the resurrection of the dead. And some people get that part confused, and all he's saying is, I don't know how resurrection happens, but it's going to happen because it happened to Jesus. But the part that we want to drill down on is this. He says, I want to know him and I want to participate in his sufferings. And there was a time in my life, I remember I was going through some real hurt and some pain. I'd been through a real painful experience, and so I went away down about 3 hours south to a cabin and just hung out with Jesus, and I brought a couple books with me. And I remember reading this book, and they said, hurt is a gift. I'm like, I physically threw that book down because I was feeling so hurt, and I was like, no way, hurt is not a gift. And so after going through just a little bit of personal angst and pity party, I picked it up again and I opened up, I started reading it, and it said, hurt is a gift because it causes you to come to the only one that can heal that hurt, and that's Jesus. And the author was basically saying hurt is designed to bring us to Jesus, who can soothe us, who can heal us, who can be near us in our pain. We had a pastor, some of you might remember, Mark, and I would talk about different things from time to time if someone was saying something, that bothered me. And he was really good at this. He would say, hey, they did it to Jesus. Why should you expect any different? And I was like, oh, right on. That Jesus went through these sufferings. And that's what participation in suffering is all about. It's this idea that, when I go through personal pain, I can look at the life of Christ and I can find times where he grieved, or where people said negative things against him. People wanted to kill him or attack him. And you can read those portions and you can feel the sense of that Jesus truly understands. And he went through that greatest moment because Jesus had a tough life. He suffered to the point where in the end of his life he said, God, please just take this away. This is too hard. But we know he did it all for us. And so you and I need to remind ourselves that suffering and hurt and pain are a part of life. And we can either push away from it, deny it, crumble to it, or we can let that hurt, that pain, that grief bring us closer to Jesus and let the Savior truly minister his comfort, his care, his presence. So I encourage you today in Lent, if you're going through a hard time, bring it to Jesus.